Dreamers everywhere. Welcome to the Dueling Disney podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Zomerman.
I'm the other one of your hosts, Al Day. Sorry if you're looking on video, I'm obsessed with my eyebrow movement.
He uses this as a mirror. He doesn't really look at mirrors. And so when we're recording, he's like, oh, wow, is that what I look like?
I just wake up in the morning and assume, yeah, this is probably all right.
Must be nice to be a guy.
I mean, handsomeness has its privilege.
Oh, God. Oh, well,
Al, but I get that mistake often. Anyway, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I've been pretty mellow with as mellow as you can be with middle schoolers for the week. That's not really mellow, but you had a trip this week.
I did. I was in Chicago, back and forth. Went to Chicago, flew out Monday, came back Thursday night. Got home about midnight. My dog let me go to sleep about 3, and then went back to my regular job on Friday.
Oh, you really did? You went in? You didn't work from home?
No, I had I was annoyed because I went in because I had like 2 in-person meetings, both of which got canceled. By once I was already at work, so I was a little bit annoyed at that, but somebody's got to.
That's annoying.
Yeah, but no, Chicago saw nothing.
I hate that for you. I hate that.
Oh my God, Chicago's one of those cities. Like, I've always wanted to see Chicago. Like, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with what was then the Sears Tower. I think it's called the Willis Tower now. I was like super obsessed with it, from like the Guinness Book of World Records and all that. I didn't even see it.
I've been there.
Like, it was like 6 blocks away, but like I couldn't get there because I was pretty much working from the time I got there to the time.
Did you even have pizza or a hot dog?
I did one night walk down to Giordano's.
Yeah.
Pizza.
Yeah.
And I was like really excited because I've had the Giordano's in Vegas, and I was like, oh, in Chicago it's going to be even better. And it tasted like the one in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then I did not have a hot dog because Chicago hot dogs, I feel like if you put that much stuff on a hot dog, your hot dog must not be that good.
It is amazing. You missed out, friend. You missed out.
Look. A hot dog with like an extra salad on top is not my idea of a good meal.
It's not a salad. It's neon green pickles. I know. How could you not want a hot dog with neon green pickles on top?
I'm just saying, if your hot dog's good, you don't need to do all that.
You don't even know. We'll have to go to Chicago sometime. Unfortunately,
I want to go to Chicago. I spent 4 days there and saw nothing. I am very familiar with room 1000 of the Crown Plaza.
I'm sad they took out. We were there one of our trips. It was the closing of their Disney store, which was an amazing Disney store. I'm so sad that they closed the Chicago Disney store. But what are you gonna do? I don't know. So were you able to have
Starbucks on a block from the Crown Plaza? That's pretty much like every other Starbucks you ever went to.
Then you missed the best Starbucks. What do they call them? Those super duper Starbucks? I can't remember what they call them right now, but they have like one in
Starbucks
Seattle.
Reserve?
Yes, the one in Chicago is my favorite one. It's like multi-level.
There's the one in Anaheim at Disney, at downtown Disney, that I've been to a couple times, and then
I forgot that they put one there.
I mean,
I totally forgot that they put
it's really like a regular Starbucks plus like a fancy bar in the back.
Okay, well, the one in Chicago is multi-level.
Oh, man. It's
freaking awesome, and it's one of my favorite places in Chicago, which is weird.
The really annoying thing is right now, Chicago has the Disney 100 exhibition, and Tuesday night was the one night I had that I didn't have a commitment.
Oh my God!
And it's closed on Tuesdays.
Oh my God!
I was so upset.
What a missed opportunity! A missed opportunity. Sad for us. Oh, well. So how did you have a Disney week then?
Oh, well, I mean, my Disney week is a little unfortunate. It's tied in with Disney Plus. I almost said the Disney Channel. Disney Plus, one of my favorite shows on Disney Plus, The Mandalorian. One of the main actors from The Mandalorian, who's one of my favorite actors across the board, Carl Weathers, passed away. Who, if you know him from The Mandalorian, you're like, oh, he's cool. But he was, to the folks in our generation, the master of disaster, the king of sting, the count of Monte Fisto, Apollo Creed in all the Rocky movies. Plus, he was Chubbs in Happy Gilmore.
I don't even know him from Happy Gilmore.
I love Carl Weathers. He's just literally good in everything.
I agree with you. And of course, I know him as Apollo. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Carl Weathers, really. I don't even know if he was in the movie. So the later movies, Apollo, where Michael B.
Oh, and the
Jordan.
Creed movies? Yeah, he wasn't in them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
but
Creed.
he was a huge presence because, I mean, it
That
would
was
be
his,
weird if he was in them because the whole
yeah.
point of him is that he's dead. But
Oh, I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember
yeah,
if he
yeah,
died. Okay. Yeah. All right.
yeah.
All
It's
right.
the big
That's all
part of
making
Rocky Four.
sense.
He dies. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to tweet, but thought it was probably in bad taste when I heard that he died. If anybody had eyes on Dolph Lundgren, and I wanted to quote that scene in Rocky Four where he
Oh
says,
my
"If
God.
he dies, he dies."
Not
Well,
great.
I thought that would be in bad taste, and so I wouldn't put that out on social media or a podcast or anything like that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
No.
You might get comments.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of comments, this isn't my Disney week necessarily, but did you see I think it was 2 weeks ago, I think I put it out on our dueling Disney Community Duelist Facebook page, that car, that Hyundai that had the wheels, and the wheels on the bottom are like a Mickey Mouse.
No, I didn't see this. I really got to start paying attention to that Facebook group.
The thing that you run, the thing that you're supposed to be looking at, so
I
they know
mean,
it's not just
I'm
all me.
54 years old, social media. You're young. It's part of your generation.
A young 53.
Yeah.
First of all, hypocrite. What do you think a podcast is younger than Facebook? Facebook is for old people.
A podcast you subscribe once and then you don't have to do anything else forever. That's why I
Must
like
be
podcasts.
nice to be you.
I've got podcasts I subscribed to 10 years ago that I'm still listening to. They just pop up on my phone once a week. It's great. I love podcasts.
I'm sure that's how all two of our listeners are listening, by the ones that pop up every once in a while. Anyway, well, you should go look because it's pretty cool. So now I'm like, when do I ever care about cars? Never. But now, of course, I want this because it has Mickey on the wheels. So that's the kind of
a specific Hyundai thing, or is it just something you put on your
Hyundai
car?
Iconic 5 factory Mickey Mouse wheels are future Disney collectibles.
Ionic 5.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, now he has to look it up where all of our regular listeners are like, we already know this. We saw this 2 weeks ago. We can't wait for you to do this. All right. That is,
oh my God, the Disney 100 floor mats. I want this car. I'm going to go buy this car today. No, I'm not. I just saw how much it cost. Never mind.
All right, listeners, please empathize with me and my frustration that my partner.
Listeners, I am on social. If you are on social media, you will interact with me daily, hourly. I'm constantly on our Facebook group and our Twitter feed, even though we don't have a Twitter feed because we cancel our Twitter feed. If you're looking to interact with me, you just, poke me. Is that still a thing? Do we still poke?
I don't know, man. I don't know. God, irritating. Anyway, I just thought it was really cool. Also,
you're the one who says I should get married. This would be the experience of any woman who married me.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I've given up on that, actually. I haven't talked about that in a long time.
I know.
I've given up.
I'm done. Don't mistake me.
I finished the book Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger and loved it so much that I had Emma listen to it on her commute. Mm-hmm. She also loved it. I highly recommend this book.
And is she just walking around work with her earpods in and having it fall and go, oh, I'm sorry. I just happen to be listening to the boss's book on tape. Oh, yeah. I'm so embarrassed.
More like listening to it on her 2-hour each way commute. But for Emma, for me, it was great just to get some behind the scenes looks and get it from Bob Iger's point of view. And for Emma, I thought it was great because it's so encouraging to young entrepreneurs, young business people, young people who are ready to go forward, because it just talks about his ambition but he's not somebody who is like, oh, everybody loves me right away and here I go. I mean, this guy, nobody liked him for a very long time. And it's very interesting about the relationship he had with Michael Eisner, with Steve Jobs, with George Lucas. And I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I will tell you that as a Disney fan, I think it's required reading. And also it's required reading. It should be in like for young business students, just to know that here is this guy, this icon right now that wasn't always an icon. He was always driven, but he made, there were some mistakes in his personal life and other things. I just loved it. And so I really highly recommend that book.
I like actually, I haven't read the book. I'm going to put it on my list.
It's good.
But you mentioned something I think might be a great idea, and I'd love to hear from our listeners. The required readings for being a Disney fan, because I'm like, oh, that's good. Like that book.
That would be a good
Walt Disney
topic.
biographies that might be good. That's if our listeners have ideas, we'd love to hear them.
But Al would never see them because he doesn't go on the Facebook page. So what are you going to do? I guess DM me directly? Anyway.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be so much more convenient for me.
Anyway, I really liked it. I really highly recommend. Oh, what I was going to say is that it needs a sequel because it ended. I mean, it's an older book. It's not new. But it ended as he believed he was retiring the first time. So this is before Chapek. I mean, he knew he was going to hand off the reins, but he didn't say to whom. And before pandemic. So before Chapek, before pandemic. But now I need a sequel. Now I need like the Vibe from 2020 and on.
The title of this one was Ride of a Lifetime.
Yeah. What's the other one going to be?
People would be like Ride Again or whatever they say when you take the roller coaster a second time. I don't know what.
I don't know. Or sorry, folks, park's closed. That would be a hilarious title.
Moose Rock Punch should have told you.
Wrong franchise, but it still would be funny.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, that's that. And then everybody, oh my gosh, if you saw the lines at Magic Kingdom in the last week or two, the lines to Country Bear Jamboree because it was closing, I bet you Country Bear Jamboree has never had that crowd. Never.
I mean, look, here's the thing. Disney people, and that's us, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a Disney podcast, go crazy for stuff. Like it's like nostalgia mainlining injected into your veins.
I know.
I'm like, it's not even like closing permanently. It's like we're gonna close it for a little while, refresh it, People are like, oh my god, my childhood! I must go to Country Bear.
It's not just refreshing; they're redoing the whole script.
I know
they're redoing the whole thing.
I don't know. That's a refresh to me. I don't know.
They're changing the characters. I don't know about a refresh. I would call it a reboot. Right? Like, well, good.
It takes you from Batman and Robin to Batman Begins. They're great.
Okay. I don't know any of those references, but I'm sure that any DC
like you
fan...
don't know Batman.
I know
You've known
Batman.
me for 50 years. You should have absorbed it by osmosis.
Okay, I know Batman and I know Superman, but what I know of Batman is the cartoon and the very first Michael Keaton movie. Uh-huh. And what I know of Superman is Christopher Reeves. Anything?
Look, you don't need to know anything but Christopher Reeves in the movies. I mean, that's
all I know.
That's the gold standard.
That's all I know.
It's so sad that Zack Snyder never made any Superman movies because he sucks. I'm sorry.
Who?
Let's not turn into let's beat up on Zack Snyder. The guy who did Man of Steel and all those neck snapping Superman. We'll have a whole other podcast about it. Very upset.
I don't know anything. It'll have to be the Al Day podcast because I don't know anything about any of that.
Now there's an idea. The Al Day podcast.
You already started that one, remember? That was your first attempt.
Oh, that's right. Nobody listened. That was when I just talked by myself.
It's
probably online somewhere. I don't know where, but it's probably good.
Anyway, I just thought it was really interesting that the reason they're closing it, which I agree with you guys, I do. I love Country Bear. It is nostalgic. I know like all the songs by heart, but it needs to be updated greatly. It is so sexist. It is borderline racist, if not flat out racist.
Part of it is, it's funny to me. It's not because I know you. But like from a West Coaster, Country Bear's been gone since 2001.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know.
And so I'm like, Country Bear's still open? And when you texted me about it, I was like, I guess it is still open over there, right? So it's so funny to me. But it was an opening day attraction too. So,
Yes, it was. And now it needs to change. And I'm glad it's changing. I'm glad that the idea is staying around. I think it's a great building. I love the show. I think if the animatronics are updated, I think they can do a lot with it. And I'm really excited to see the new one. So That'll happen. So bittersweet.
Can I just share a short anecdote about Big Al?
That I
So
take your picture every time
yeah,
I see
so
it.
as our podcasters know, my name is Al. Big Al is a character in Country Bears Jamboree. A couple years ago, I was at work. I'm going to do this as quickly as I can. And higher up introduced me and said, "I'm just really happy that Big Al is here." And two people who work for me got really offended that he called me Big Al. And I was like, I don't know why you're offended. I'm not particularly offended. And it became a whole thing. Anyway, you were saying?
Okay, that's really funny. But it would be even funnier if you started singing Blood on the Saddle. That would have been hilarious.
I don't think anybody but me would have gotten it.
You know what? Do you know how many times I just say things with
But to
nobody
be
but
fair,
me getting
that's
it, and I
half of what I
crack up?
say.
I
Is just so
know.
I could laugh. Yeah.
I literally, the kids, especially the kids, because I'm in, with middle schools every day, they just look at me, and I'll continue with my movie line or scene
You're making
or whatever
Love
it
Boat
is.
references. Like Julie, you're cruise director. They're like, what?
I know, and it doesn't matter because I just laugh. But the best thing is my.
Let me tell you, how many of our listeners didn't understand when we said Love Boat references? They're like, what?
No, I bet our listeners understood.
That's true.
Our listeners are right in our demographic for sure. And my coworker, I co-teach with him. He's the ELD, the English Language Development Teacher. So for 2 of my classes, he's in there with me with some English language learners, and he's our age too. And so just like the randomness when he's in there of the 80s references, and we just have our own fun. We don't care if anybody else is around. We'll just continue.
Did you put 5 disparate kids with each unique identities on detention for a Saturday? Because that would be cool.
Oh, that's something nobody's heard
ask
of.
them to write a letter telling why they think they're there.
Mm-hmm. But it can't be the exact same script.
Yeah, put them in detention again because you didn't follow the assignment, so you're going to be in detention next week.
Exactly.
And by the way, when Monday comes, you kids aren't going to want to talk. You're not going to talk to each other. Let's be real. When I'm an adult, I look at that movie, and at the end, I'm like, none of those kids are going to talk to each other on Monday.
It doesn't matter because all the kids now that watch it are offended by all the things that happened, like the bullying and the, all this kind of stuff. So
to be fair, there was stuff in it I was a little offended by at the time.
I wasn't. I was in love with every minute of it. I loved it all.
Yeah.
No, anyway, but it's not the Breakfast Club podcast. Although I could have a Breakfast Club podcast. This is not the Breakfast. But we are going to talk about not the past, but the future. We're going to talk about specifically Disneyland Forward, which
isn't
Disneyland. What?
Isn't that the future? I mean, you said we're not going to talk about the past, not the future. But
I said, but the future. Didn't I say, but the future?
Nope.
Oh, go sorry.
And
okay,
again, you're going to go back and listen, and I'm going to be wrong, and you're going to broadcast that. But go on. No, go on.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, Disneyland Forward is a website right now, but it is also an idea that Disneyland has put together, this website, but also community meetings all over Anaheim so they can get buy-in for expanding Disneyland in theme park, in parking, in pedestrian walkways, in shopping and entertainment district, to make it a little bit more like Walt Disney World. If you look on the website, there's all kinds of ideas that look fantastic. But I am a Disney fan. I am not a lifelong Anaheim resident who doesn't like Disney. I'm sure they have their own opinions about Disneyland Forward.
You and I have both lived in Orange County, not for extended periods of time, but relatively close to the park. So I think we might have some thoughts on it.
No, that's true. Well, yeah, but still being a Disney fan, I want it to expand. I mean,
no, I totally did, but I will also admit when I was an Orange County resident, there were times in which I was trying to sleep and I heard the fireworks and I was a little.
I love that. Come on, it's not like they're on at midnight. They're on at or maybe
you're trying to sleep.
I don't know.
I definitely have been annoyed at being like just getting into that good part of sleep, and then all of a sudden,
oh please, I love it. I loved it. I love living there. I love watching it. I am a better fan than you. We already know that. One thing though is when you go to the. I'm sorry, I've been looking at the website as I'm talking to you. So YouTubers, when I'm not looking at you, that's what I'm looking at. I love the history pictures at first because it reminds me of what was and actually how ugly things were around Disneyland. I mean, they didn't start off that way. They were orange groves, right?
But
But
I also think you and I are old enough to remember a little bit of what it looked like
it was
when there was
ugly.
like the park and then the street. And remember, we
Yeah.
used to park at Godfather's Pizza,
Yeah.
and because
Yeah.
they didn't pay close attention to their parking, and it was really ugly outside of the parks.
Yeah. Godfather's Pizza. I don't think McDonald's is still across the street, but there was a McDonald's across the street.
There's
When I
McDonald's.
look at what was in the 80s and then no, I didn't pay attention to all the behind the scenes stuff at the time, but then reading some of this history about the 90s when they went to all this planning with Anaheim and just seeing how beautiful that area looks now. Still hotels, still lots of hotels, and so I'm not necessarily talking about um past Harbor Boulevard or past Disney Way or their hotels, but they were just like out, like the telephone wires everywhere. You know, they were the poles everywhere and the billboard signs everywhere, and it just brought back memories for me when I look at the picture. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't, yeah, I know that, you know, in it it got beautiful, but I didn't, I don't know. I
I
think
mean, here's the
my
thing. It I'm of two minds on this thing because
yeah.
as a Disney fan who pays a lot of money, I love going down there. I think it is so much more beautiful than it used to be.
Mhm.
But I'm also not a fan of gentrification.
Yeah, I know.
And when I lived in Anaheim, Anaheim was actually one of the more affordable places to live in Orange County,
Well, it still is, which is
wh-
sad.
which is sad, right? Because it's not cheap
Right.
anymore. It used to be like reason. I had friends who lived in Anaheim and worked at the park, and it used to be if you had a full time job at the park, this was like 90s, right? You might be able to also afford to live in the neighborhood, right? And you weren't
Yeah.
like getting rich, but like you could, pay your rent and buy food and pay for your kids and have a full time job at the park. So I love the changes, but I think it's also really pushed a lot of people. Every time you make a big change like this, the sort of costs to live in the area go up. And I think that that's part of the thing I hope we don't lose on this as Disney fans, where I'm like, I want to acknowledge the privilege of I am at a point in my life where like I go to Disneyland, spend a lot of money, and it's a great time. And unless I think about it, I don't really think about what the impact of that is. So I'm kind of on, I just say that to say I'm kind of on both sides of sort of being pro this plan and also understanding the concerns about this plan.
So if you look at the plan, it's definitely expanding. It's definitely changing the neighborhood. It's changing the parking. It's closing some streets down to be pedestrian only. So there will be a lot of change, and there will be effects to the neighborhoods around. One of the things, though, is that Anaheim is putting together, or has been putting together, this affordable housing kind of account, I guess, so that they can create affordable housing. And part of this plan, Disney is committed to putting millions of dollars into this affordable housing plan, which I think is cool. One thing, and this is a selfish thing for me, that I think would be cool too, is that they not only put money into this affordable housing plan, but if they put money into the public schools around the area. I think that anytime California expands, they need to also get more in the schools around there. But I also think that well, here you go with gentrification too. Those houses on the other side of Walnut Street, the Walnut neighborhood, I mean, they're already expensive. They're going to be even more expensive
Mm-hmm.
with all of that stuff. Unless you are one of those residents that's been living there since the beginning of time, are you going to be mad that all that theme park traffic is right there? But it's already right there. So
Well, but here's the question. Here's the question, and this is part of the sort of whole gentrification piece. Are the people who live in those houses, are they owner occupied or are they rental properties? Because if they're owner occupied, you're going to be thrilled because the value of your house went up and it doesn't sort of directly affect you. If you're a renter, however, you're going to be like, oh, here we go, right? So that's part of the piece. I mean, here's the thing. I don't know that there's going to be, realistically, this is going to happen, right? Like there's no question. And as a
Really?
Disney fan, I mean, I think if it wasn't going to happen, it would have been stopped now.
But they already stopped them once.
I know that's my point. Is if that was the attempt to stop it. I think once it got over that hurdle, I don't think there's much resistance in the future. Of course, I work at a university that took 50 years to develop a plot of land, so I have ample evidence to the contrary that maybe they will. But it's just complicated. Is all I'm saying.
It is, but I think it's interesting about all their community events that they're having. So all the communities, all the little neighborhoods and communities that would be affected traffic-wise, neighborhood-wise, things like that, they're all having these like meetings. I mean, Disney has really gotten themselves ahead of this. They know what they're doing. They want the public buy-in. And so they're doing the extra mile by having all these community events. You can sign up. Even if you don't live there, you can sign up for information, newsletters, and things to be sent to you. So, I mean, it's a really cool thing if you're interested in what's going to happen in the parks. I am very curious when I look at the map of it. What do I want to say? I don't get it in my head, even though I can see it. It looks like there's going to be a theme park. So if you can picture where Paradise Pier, or not Paradise Pier, Pixar Place, sorry, the new hotel that was, what was it? It was Paradise Pier Hotel. And before that, it was the Japanese hotel that I can't remember the name.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So now it's Pixar Place. They've got it done. It's all Pixar'd. And the Disneyland Hotel, if you can picture where those are, they're going to build a theme park enclosing those two properties, kind of like Grand Californian is in Grand Californian is in Disney's California Adventure.
Right.
It's interesting.
Well, and there's this big question of whether it's going to be a third gate or if it's just going to be right in addition to California Adventure. The map also shows a pretty substantial extension of Disneyland, which obviously more space at Disneyland is great, but where it extends is kind of weird. And I'm like, what's going to happen to like the traditional entry of Disneyland that's been there since 1955? I don't know. I'm intrigued. I also, and this is a really dark thought, we're talking about decades of expansion. I'm like, am I ever going to see this? Or is it like...
Maybe. You never know. I know it is, but you say that. You say that, but, and I know we're old now. I get it. We're older now, but in the 80s, when you're talking about new things, you're like, that's never going to happen, or that seems so long ago. And now looking back,
I first heard about Westcott.
Westcott. Good times. Although it might have done better as Westcott than it did at the first opening of Disney's California Adventure.
Well, but here's the thing: when you look, and we'll put a link to the Disneyland Forward website where there's maps and sort of questions about it. When you look at this map, it's sort of additional, sort of a lot of additional stuff in the area of the Pixar Hotel, but there's also sort of a complete redo of the Woody and Friends parking lot. That's now just a big slab of concrete. And it looks like a whole sort of additional sort of downtown Disney, plus this little weird spot that's called a possible theme park experience. Right? Which is sort of by itself not connected to anything. So I'm not sure what that is. I mean, it's intriguing, right? And the thing to remember about these kinds of way in the future plans is they're not committing to anything, right? This is just the application to get the permits to start thinking about developing these projects, right? So I doubt they have, gone too far in terms of specifically these are the things that will come to pass, as much as here's some ideas that we can throw at the wall so people know kind of what we're talking about.
Well, they have
But
to get community buy-in, and
right,
this is a
yeah.
good way to do
But
it.
here's the thing: it expands significantly, both Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. But what I found is that interesting is that corner of Harbor and Catella, where that 7-Eleven is, and what's that hotel you all stay at sometimes? The one right behind the 7-Eleven.
Oh, Candy Cane.
Candy Cane
Candy
Inn.
Cane, and yeah.
That corner, I've always
Uh-huh.
been fascinated with that corner because Disney owns that
Uh-huh.
entire slab except
Yeah.
that little corner.
Yeah.
And it still looks like they're not getting that little corner, which is amazing to me.
Candy Cane Inn, it is fascinating. It's not going anywhere, and I'm sure Disney wanted to buy that out like
I
a million
guarantee
times
Disney wants to
over.
buy that out. You can't tell me that the owners of that plot of land haven't been offered
I
gazillion
know.
dollars.
So what is it?
And
I mean, are they like
7-Eleven?
I know. I know. Yeah, that is interesting. Um, Even the hotels across the park, if you look at the history pictures, a lot of them are still there. The Desert Inn, Anaheim Inn,
Mm-hmm.
even like the Denny's and the Tony Romas.
Right.
And so all that stuff is still there. It looks better.
Although in the plan, there's a couple of new parking structures that would
Yeah.
overlay some of that stuff.
I know.
So,
I was curious about that myself. And then when I look at what other parks have that could possibly be in Disneyland, I know you're going to disagree with it. They have to do something. They have to do something.
Say more, because I'm not sure what you mean by that in terms of.
Well,
I mean,
they're at park capacity,
more space,
so it's not like, yeah.
More space, 100,000%, right? It's so crowded there. But I don't
Not that they mind.
I guess my thing is, and this is sort of a core difference between us. If you listen to this, you're a Walt Disney World person. I'm a Disneyland person,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why it annoys me so much when people from Disney World come in like the castle's too small. I'm like, I don't understand that critique because I'm like, the castle is what the castle is. It would be just as easy for me to go to Florida and be like, the castle's too big. Like, I don't understand how that's a thing. But
well, that's not something that bothers me.
Having been to both, I find Disney Anaheim Resort much more navigable.
It is.
Than Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World covers 49 square miles.
I know.
It's like going around San Francisco. It's like if you start in one park and have to go to the other park, that is a hike. And so
but there's always space to go.
I want the space, but I don't want it to be so far that it's like to have here's the thing, it's what I don't want and what Disney wants, which is I can go for 2 days and see a lot of stuff and have a really good time. If you go to Disney World, 5 days minimum.
Well,
bare minimum. To see Disney World, and really, you probably need more time, right? And that's great for making money, right? But I don't. Let's be clear, if I could spend 5 days at Disneyland, I would. It's just all of a sudden Disneyland becomes a different thing, right? And it's because I was a local for so long that I still see it as a local park where I can just pop in, get something to eat and ride pirates.
Well, that's great if you have a season pass, but if you're a tourist who just paid a gajillion dollars to go to Disneyland, yeah, the history's there and everything, but it's so flipping crowded and claustrophobic that you do not get your money's worth out. I don't think you get your money's worth out of Disneyland.
I think that's a valid point. I totally think it's a valid point. Like, one of the examples is Disney World decided to allow park hopping anytime. Disneyland, you still have to wait until, I think it's down to 11, but you can't park hop.
Not just park hopping. You don't have to make reservations at all anymore at Disney World. Right. At all. You can just go.
Yeah.
And you can't do that at Disneyland.
Which, as an annual pass holder, would be much more convenient for me.
Yeah, they just reached park capacity way too quickly. It's been way too crowded, and it's not built for the crowds and that's why they need more space. And this is why I say Disneyland needs more. They probably don't have to do anything, and they will still make their cajillion dollars because people are still going. So
Yeah.
it's not like, my opinion matters, but there are so many things that like
I
Tokyo
mean,
has and
yeah.
Shanghai has that
Your
I would
opinion
love to
matters.
have in the
Your
States.
opinion matters in the sense that you're the target demographic, right?
Am I? Well,
Middle
yeah, somebody
class.
with money.
Yeah, middle class who has kids, who has a strong affinity for Disney, for lack of a better term, intellectual property, right? That's you and, well, less me than you, but we're the people that keep this corporation alive. We keep we should do an experiment, and I ask our listeners to participate. Just think about in a given year how much money you give directly to the Disney Corporation. If I think about it like that, it is a lot of money.
Oh, heck yeah.
Between
Although I spend a lot less now that my girls work there. Or do I spend more because I know that I can? So one of the things I would love to see, and I think would do so well at Disneyland, and here's another thing. It would be kind of cool if Disneyland had some things that Disney World did not have, so that
Yep.
there would be that. So, but Tokyo has Frozen. They just opened up Arendelle, and they have a castle and a restaurant, and they have a boat ride. I just think that would be cool. I think it would be cool if they opened up something that Disney World just doesn't have.
Yeah, I mean, the plans have like things that they're going to do, but most of it is just like, hey, here's a port from, other parks, right? Like Tron Light Cycle and things of that sort, which is great.
Tron would be great. I would love
Right.
Tron out in California.
I think that that's awesome, but I also think, like you, that some of the stuff that doesn't exist, they could. I mean, they have Avengers Campus at California Adventure.
Yeah,
Right
that's
now,
true. I
Avengers
forgot about that.
Campus is kind of lame. I'll be
Mhm.
honest, because other
Yeah.
than Guardians of the Galaxy, which kind of isn't really in Avengers Campus, they've got the Spider-Man attraction, and they've got a big building where they're going to do an Avengers attraction, but it's not open yet, right? Like, there's not much to do there. It's like giant Instagram area, right? So they could really, I can't believe I'm saying this as a DC fan, but do a whole Marvel theme park top to bottom, which Universal has done on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I would love to see what Disney Imagineers would do with that, option. But also, quite honestly, after I went to Universal a couple of weeks ago, they probably can't do this, but man, as cool as the Simpsons area is at Universal, can you imagine what Disney Imagineers could do with the Simpsons?
They won't do that though. That is too.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's too far. But think about it. Like, Pixar has done really well for them there. And there's just so many. Disney is so vast now that there's so many different things you could do. Just look at just go on a random search through Disney Plus, and there's stuff that could be at the parks that isn't there yet. Right?
That is true. That is true.
You could just have a Jeff Goldblum animatronic, right, doing cool stuff.
Like, instead of great moments with Mr. Lincoln, you have great moments with Jeff Goldblum. It's just him doing stand up for like 15 minutes as an animatronic.
Yes. National Geographic, like that's a piece. Like,
yes,
when you think of Animal Kingdom, can you imagine an Animal Kingdom type experience in Anaheim, right? Like,
oh my God, they couldn't do Animal Kingdom itself, but you know how you said that area with the Disney Springs-esque idea, and you said a theme park experience in the middle of it. What if the theme park experience in the middle of it is all a VR theme park experience? You could have so many National Geographic things.
You could do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, one of the best things, and it's closed now, that we ever did as a family at Disney Springs in Florida was that they had, and I am forgetting the name of the company, but they did VR experiences, right? And so we did the Stormtrooper one where we were actually spies in Stormtrooper costumes, but it was amazing. It was so realistic, and you would go from room to room and elevator and all this stuff. Now, for us, our equipment malfunctioned halfway through the experience, so we were able to take off our equipment where we were, and it was so weird to just see nothing. It was a warehouse little cubicle that we were in, and then we got to go back and experience it all over again and start from the beginning. And I just thought it was one of the most fantastic things ever. I bet they could totally do that. And if they had National Geographic, they could do a whole I mean, you could go places that you would never be able to afford to go. The normal person.
But you could do things that you literally physically couldn't do. Like,
it would be amazing.
They've got James Cameron, go to the Titanic. Right? How cool would that be? Right? Like, you could figure out a way to do. There's so much you could do. Here's something that I really would love for them to do, and it's such a part of Disney World that I think, quite honestly, this could be more effective at Disneyland just because of the smaller footprint. Because even with this expansion, it's still a fraction of Disney World.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
For the first time since 1959, expand the monorail. Like, so that the monorail is an actual transportation mode as opposed to an attraction. And if you've only been to Disneyland,
the
monorail is just kind of an attraction. And
it's an attraction,
Disney World, it's how you get around. It's one of the ways you get around. Also, the Skyways would be awesome to go from that. What's the Woody and Friends parking lot? To the entrance gate, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so many different things you could do with transportation, because that's once you get into Disney property, it's super easy to get around. But even if I'm staying at a hotel that's a block away, it is such a pain.
Yeah,
because you can't. You're right. You have to. There's only one way into the park, and so unless you're staying literally across the street from that park, it takes you forever to get to the entrance.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you're staying at the big hotels near the convention center, like, you got to walk it's just a pain.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, multiple entrances.
Yeah.
Like, to be able to go in on the backside of California Adventure would be a game.
You can. If you're staying at the hotel.
If you're staying at the hotel. I'm not talking about the downtown Disney part of California Adventure. I'm talking about the street side. Like, where you're going across the street from the convention center?
Oh, that side.
Yeah.
There's one on Disneyland Drive, but you're talking about putting one on Catella.
Yeah.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah, no kidding. That would be amazing too. You're right.
Honestly, when I go to Disney World, I stay at the property hotels because there's a wide variety of costs.
Transportation, yeah.
The only time I've stayed at Disney hotels when I was at Disneyland is when the school was paying for it.
Yeah.
And even then, it was super expensive. And I told our travel coordinator, I was like, this is a lot of money to spend. I was staying at California Adventure. I'm okay to stay at the Hilton, right? Like, so, I mean, but here's the other thing. You've been to Walt Disney World way more than me. What would you port that you think would work at Disneyland? And what that would work at Disneyland, but keep the character? Because that's my thing. I don't want to lose the character. I don't want to lose the history.
You're asking me what attraction would go over there? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, attractions are easy, but like a part of your experience at Walt Disney World, right? Like, you all are vacation club owners, so you experience way more of the outside of the park stuff than I generally do.
Oh, so outside the park stuff. Well, I think that their idea of having an expanded downtown Disney to be like Disney Springs is important if they want people to stop by that aren't going to the parks. I think that Anaheim Garden Walk, the idea of Anaheim Garden Walk was amazing. It was supposed to be like that. I think Disney needs to buy Anaheim Garden Walk. I mean, they could honestly, easily.
That parking structure, I'm not great at spatial stuff, but it looks like it's kind of on top of Anaheim Garden Walk. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm not. That's why I didn't know about the maps or anything too. But if they bought Anaheim Garden Walk and they even did maybe a bridge, I mean, Disney Springs has bridges too.
Right.
Do a bridge
which are on this map. They have some pedestrian bridges on this map. The long purple lines.
I'm even talking about doing it over Disneyland or over Harbor, so that you connect.
So you connect Disney, would make life so much easier.
Downtown Disney with Disney Springs area to make it like, I mean, Disney Springs in Florida is 3 different areas. You have your West Side District, you have your Marketplace, and then you have your whatever they're calling the middle. I can't remember what the middle is, but anyway. That's what I think is needed, because downtown Disney is too small, and so many people travel. They can't go to the parks because they're doing something else, but they want to go experience. And downtown Disney is too small. They need to expand that area. That's my
it's so
my
funny.
2 cents.
I agree. Downtown Disney is too small, and yet when I go, I'm so tired walking that whole thing.
Well, Disney Springs. I mean, you need a lot to do Disney Springs too. So I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. So what about you? What would be like the one thing you would do?
I'm telling you, honestly, bring multiple hotel affordability layers over,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You don't even have to start with the value resorts, just the mid resorts.
Mm-hmm.
Staying at any of the 3 current resorts starts at $500 a night.
Not at Paradise Pier.
It's like $400 a night. It's
Okay.
like twice as expensive as like getting a room at the
Hilton. It is. Yeah, absolutely it is.
And so anything because I would prefer to
staying on property.
I stay on property when I'm in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I literally can't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I cannot justify the additional cost in Anaheim. I'm always staying off property.
The other thing too is that any of the resorts at Disney World, you can literally spend a day at a resort. Like we include resort days. If I'm staying at the Disneyland Hotel or Pixar Place, I don't want to spend a day there.
Yeah.
A whole day. There's nothing to do to spend a whole day there.
Right.
I mean, there's a pool and a restaurant.
And
but
the
it's
Disneyland
not like,
pool is awesome. But okay, you go to the pool, you go get something to eat, and then
what if it's cold? What if you don't want to go swimming? There's not a lot of other stuff to do. So I do love that about Walt Disney World, that each of the resort properties is a destination on its own.
Right. And the resorts, even the value resorts, I would continue to stay at the value resorts if they just made the beds better. Like when I moved
that's why they're value.
From the value resorts to the mid resorts.
Yeah.
The biggest difference wasn't like quality of the things that were available to me. It was a shorter walk to get to transportation and a more comfortable bed.
Okay, so when you guys read The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Iger, I'm not going to spoil the story, but I want you to read it. It's when Bob Iger showed for the first time Steve Jobs' Art of Animation.
Mm-hmm.
That story is all I'm going to say. And then we can talk about that after you all read the book. Everybody read the book, and we'll talk about the story about when Bob Iger showed Steve Jobs' Art of Animation for the first time.
Dueling Disney Book Club.
We could do that. We could totally do that.
I read
all
books.
Right. So now, of course, I want to hear from our community duelists. Go to the site, go to DisneylandForward.com, check it out. Let us know what you would be looking forward to, what you think is kind of crazy. Give us your information. I do want to do a shout out to our duelist, Christina. She is so good about commenting on our YouTube videos, and she always puts some details about herself. And Christina, even though we don't answer every time, we appreciate it. So thank you very much, duelist Christina.
Read every single one.
There's only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm always looking at it.
Yeah, sure you are. Okay. Anyway, that's that.
Tune in to Dueling Disney next week. Same dueling time, same dueling channel.